All right, so this is walking into the stadium in Trat, which is on the border with Cambodia. And this guy I'm walking with is the promoter, who we don't know each other, but we've been talking online a little bit. Communication of when I'm going to be there, who I'm fighting, all these different things. But we've just gotten to the temple, this is temple grounds. This is during Songkran, which is the Thai New Year. So there's lots of festivals going on, lots of fights going on. And when you arrive at a venue like this, you just kind of like find where you're going to put your stuff down. And he was going to introduce me to the people who would be cornering for me. In Thai it's called Piliang. So this for me is fight 238, and we're in trot, as I said. I do not know my cornermen, like, at all, but we've been talking for 10 minutes before the fight or whatever. My opponent is a local star. She was bigger than what the promoter initially said she was going to be, but not bigger than most of the opponents I generally face nowadays. You can totally see our size difference there. You do this before fights a lot. They'll bring in like a VIP. It's usually a local politician or someone who in the local community has some clout, and they bring them in to do this part where they put the garlands around your neck or maybe hand you a bonus or anything like that. The ring was crazy wet and muddy, but what was cool about it is that the canvas is not slippery. So even though it was super wet and muddy and gross, and I was like totally getting gunk all up on my legs, which apparently I care about, it wasn't slippery, which is great, because sometimes even just a little bit of water when you're a late fight will make the canvas super slick. It's like you're on a slip and slide, and so that kind of is what you have to worry about when you're fighting late. This muddiness is not so much of a problem. We are the main event, which to me is very cool, because Trot, this area of Trot is in the like main, they call it Muang, so it's like the capital of Trot, but it's very rural, this area. And to have female fighters be the main event at this festival show that had like somewhere between 13 and 15 fights on it, I thought was very cool. I had seen a little bit of footage of my opponent that the promoter had sent me just to ask whether I could fight her style. Her style being that she comes forward and knees and kicks a lot. She's quite aggressive. Her garland fell off when she did her Y crew, so they're just taking care of that for her. But so yeah, I'd seen a little bit of her and I was like, yeah, I can fight that style, I can fight any style. But what was kind of funny about it was that before the fight, when my cornermen were coming up, and I like going to these festival fights and not knowing who my cornermen are, because it totally allows me this like separation from any kind of expectations or having to please somebody or having to follow directions. So they were telling me endless things that I should do because they know her as a fighter. They said that she switches stances, they said that she's a knee fighter, all of these things. And I do not have to listen to my corner, which to me feels really good. I also was smiling the whole time because nobody knows me. The reason I got hooked up with this fight is that a teacher in Lampang, which is up near Chiang Mai, he brought students to fight at Taipei, where I fight, and he saw me and he was like, I have a friend down in the Chonburi area who promotes, can I put you guys in touch with each other? So completely opposite ends of Thailand in terms of not going all the way to the islands. Her corner loves my stocking thing right there. That's how I got hooked up with this fight. So nobody here knows me at all, and they're like warning me about this girl being a knee fighter, not knowing that I'm a knee fighter. Oh man. When I was looking at her, I was like, she's not that big, because all my opponents are so big that my eyes don't see it anymore, but looking at it here in the middle of the ring, she is big. I'm very small, but she's pretty big. The promoter, when he first booked me, said she'll be 48 kilos, and then very shortly before the fight he was like, I think she's 53, and then he called me the day before the fight and was like, I think she's actually 55. Nowhere near where Sylvie fights. So you're saying she's going to be big, because I'm 46, so it's going to be a lot. The corner man for me right now, doing my Mon Con, was talking to me about what he wanted me to do, And I had these like two things going on in my head because I was semi-listening to him, but not on the microphone, but behind me, the promoter and the people at that table were talking about how many rounds we were going to fight. And he was like asking the audience how many rounds they wanted us to fight. The reason they ask is that women can fight 5 rounds at 2 minutes or 4 rounds at 3 minutes. Or if there's no dermpan, sometimes at festival fights, they'll just, dermpan is a side bet. If there's no side bet, sometimes they'll just have a fight be 3 rounds. So I'm like trying to listen to how many rounds I'm gonna be fighting while my corner's talking to me, and I'm like, stop talking, I need to know how many rounds I'm gonna be fighting. I want it to be 5. She's feeling good because she's just tagging me with her weapons. I'm actually feeling kind of good. I've been fighting fasted for a long time now. Just coincidentally, I fast every other day, so it's a 50-50 chance whether I'll be fasting on a fight day or not. And every single fight since I've started doing this has been on a fast day. But I feel really good. So I was very focused. We were fighting really late. I think we were fighting at about 12:30 in the morning after being there for a couple of hours. And she's bigger than me, so she kind of like doesn't have any fear of me coming in on her. But when I was feeling this fight and when I was watching this fight after, I was really happy with myself. In Thai it's called Ning, and it means being like unaffected, like looking unaffected and even. I felt like I had that more than I kind of almost ever do. She's hitting me a lot and I'm coming in, but I often like fall off of things. That's a nice little breakdown, letting her know that if she wants to clinch with me in this fight, it's not going to be an easy thing for her. She does switch stance a little bit. When I had seen in her fight before, the one fight of hers that I'd seen when she was switching stance, she kind of does it to like intimidate her opponent, but she doesn't really strike a lot out of it. What's kind of funny is I'm also a switching fighter, not super freely, but neither of us really switched in this fight at all. The announcer is this guy in the like orange shirt down right behind us, and he loves calling every time the referee is breaking us when he's going yak, 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 yak. To yak is to like separate, so he's telling us to separate because the ref is separating us. I love when I like grab her and it's like now my hook is in and it's time to go. It looks explosive rather than oftentimes in the many fights I've had leading up to this, it looks like I'm just trying to dive through distance. And to me, it doesn't look like that. It looks like I'm snatching her, which is cool to see because I've been working on that. She likes doing this kick and punch, which is like kind of a Chiang Mai female fighter specialty as well, so I'm a little bit used to that. They ended up giving us, as I was talking about how many rounds we were going to be fighting, they ended up giving us 3-minute rounds at 5 rounds. So we actually fought a male fight, which is very cool. I think I've only had a few of those in my 238 fights. Like this might be the 3rd or something, like not a lot at all. There's no reason why women need to fight 2-minute rounds. It's because they think that we like can't handle it. Like our uteruses will fall out if we go 10 miles an hour or something. So he's been yelling for us to separate in the fight, and then when the bell rings and we actually neither of us stop, he's like Sylvie, screaming at us. It's great. Right. So this guy in the yellow pants was not originally part of my corner. He kind of like jumped in at the last minute and then was like super imposing. He was like way into being in my corner. He had been a trainer in Pattaya for like a year at the Max Muay Thai gym or something. But when I told him what gym I'm from and who my trainer is, Khao, and he had no recognition, I knew he didn't really have any connections in Pattaya if he didn't know that gym and Khao, because Khao knows everybody. Sylvie. But I'm listening to Kevin. Kevin's telling me that I'm only going right, which is a habit that I have without really being aware of it. And then again, like I was saying before, you have these complete strangers in your corner, telling you what to do, and there's a wonderful freedom of just smiling and nodding and being like, I don't have to fucking listen to anything you're saying. Sometimes it's good advice and you can choose to go with it, and sometimes you're just like, I know how I fight, I don't need anything. Which is one of the cool things about these festival fights, is sometimes your cornerman will be like an 8-year-old kid, so there's like no authority that you have to listen to. Kevin's telling me not to listen to this guy, and I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. So Kevin had warned me, he's like, you need to clinch her early so that you know what her clinch is, so that you can solve it as you go. And I kind of started remembering my teep a little bit more in this fight, which was really good. She has this like stepping in knee that wasn't actually hitting me, but it looks so good that it might be scoring a little bit anyway, even though it's not impacting me. It's hard to know. She's big down below though. I do well against these girls who most of their weight is in their legs and not up top, because I'm the exact opposite of that. I've got like chicken legs and then I'm very strong up top. But our weight difference is significant. I'm 46 and we're guessing she was like 53, 54, something like that. She could be 55. So significant. I love that I'm jumping on these knees. I'm actually like changing my arm position in the clinch, which is really cool to me, because for a really long time I've just locked and like held and used my strength. That's a nice elbow from her. But I'm basically showing my training in this fight, which makes me really happy. I actually thanked Prunu afterwards. I like sent him a message because he had me doing these like epic 40+ minute man in the middle clinch training sessions. So you stay in the middle, and anytime someone gets thrown, you get a new partner, whether it's you or not. Oh, some good clinching. I think she wins her fights in the clinch a lot. She like overpowers girls. I win my clinch. I win in the clinch as well. So it's like a who has the better clinch. And I feel like I had a broader vocabulary. Look at how I'm lifting her arm and like kind of swimming through. She cannot grab me, and I'm kind of framing and locking her out. This is stuff that I talk about all the time in terms of like how you need to get advantageous positions to be able to move in. And I'm actually doing it under pressure in a fight. This was a stressful fight for me because I had absolutely no real connections going in. The promoter either was being super sketchy on her size, but I didn't feel like he was being sketchy. I felt like he actually just had no idea of what was happening, which also has not a great feeling. I'm turning, and if she doesn't go, I'm striking after it. That's something that even in training I have to like struggle to get myself to do. That was a good elbow that I followed with as well. But all of this is scoring like crazy, and the drag back and the different positions and the turning. Like when I watch MMA, I don't really understand the ground game, but there can be tons of stuff going on. So people who don't fully understand the clinch, when there's turns and locks and breaking of posture and scores and all these different things, this is like a really good clinch fight rather than like all they're doing is clinching. There's a lot going on between us in the clinch, which is very cool to see. She's got a really nice step knee. I was not striking her after they had stopped the time because that's a foul. This is the referee telling my husband that he thinks I'm good. He's like, good in the corner. I didn't hit her after the bell, but I held her head after the bell so that everyone could see what that position was. That's a little bit of a like performance strategy on my part.
Sylvie.
So this dude in the yellow pants is telling me that when I get my framing position, I need to step my legs back in order to get more power on my knees and to make them more distinct. That's something that Diesel Noi also talks about a lot, is like bringing your leg back. Actually, everyone talks about bringing your leg back for the knee. Yod Kun Pan is really, really big on it. It's a way to get power, but it's also a way to not make the strike a secret between you and your opponent. Kevin is giving more of a broad and greater impact all around piece of advice, which is to stop just drifting right all the time. He tells me to start going left. Because I've been drifting right, if I change direction, that's naturally going to change how the fight's going. But it's also a good idea for me to be going in that direction. I'm actually moving into my opponent's power kick, which seems like it shouldn't be a good idea. But because I'm a forward fighter, that actually snuffs her strike rather than moving into it. If you stay at kicking range and stay out, you don't want to be going in that direction, just kind of drifting because you're drifting into their power. But if you stay close, you end up kind of snuffing the power before it can even impact you, which is really good. So here I'm listening to Kevin and I actually start drifting to the left a little bit, and you'll see it actually creates a little bit of an impact. She's trying to use her teep more in order to keep me on the outside because we're both clinchers, and she realizes that in the clinch game she does not have the advantage. She's trying to turn me on my knees there, but she has a double outside position and doesn't have the strength for it. I was telling Kevin that one of the things that I was thanking Krunu for after my fight was that he had me clinching sometimes man in the middle with two people who were significantly bigger than me, like 60 kilos type of thing. And I just felt exhausted by it. Like I felt like I wasn't able to grow in it, and I would kind of give him shitty looks, and he was like, nice. Standing over people is my new jam. He was like, it's good for you. You need to learn how to keep working with really big people. One, because that's who I fight, but two, it teaches you to relax and not use power. And he's absolutely right. When I was telling Kevin after this fight is that she has a really nice lock, actually, but it's not like a basket that's interwoven. It's just kind of like bricks laid out. So when you find the weak point with my arm, I can like push my way in, even though she has a really great lock. Whereas if she had an understanding of creating tension in certain spots, which I have a better understanding of, you can lock people out really well because you have a bit of flexibility. So I keep getting, if you look at this frame I have right now, one hand on the back of her head and one on her arm, I can move her in any direction at will. Gotta work on that jab a little bit, but closing the distance like this looks much better to me from the outside than it has really ever. This was really good, like in terms of how I'm standing, how I'm covering space, and how I'm like composed in space. I think this is one of my best fights in that regard, given especially how much pressure and fear I had going into this fight. Take the ref down too. Everyone goes down. I like too that in my coming forward, it's not like percussive. Like it is coming in steady. Like I'm not really breaking my pace, but I'm not rushing or halting. It's just kind of slow and steady. This is very much like Krunu, Yod Kunpan, Diesel Noi. All of these people just like keep their pace. It's very Terminator. Oh, that turn and knee is such a high point. And then I've got both of my forearms on her shoulders. You cannot get out of that. That's Diesel Noi's like amazing lock that he just killed everybody with. So now my arm's on the outside and I have to work my way inside, which can be really hard. But like I was talking about the bricks versus the basket, it's kind of easy to get inside on her because she just uses an all-around strength lock rather than understanding how to like move her tension around. The total difference in our body language as the bell rang right there, it says quite a bit about how that round went. I was listening to the announcer a little bit. I wasn't paying super attention to what he was saying, but he kept saying that I was a man. That's a comment that I've hated for a really, really long time. I know that it's meant as a compliment, usually most of the time, but it's totally a backhanded compliment. I felt like it was 100% a compliment in this fight, and I was taking it as such. I was like happy every time I heard him say it. Not because I want to be a man, but because what that means to him in terms of like what composure, strength, and qualities masculinity is a flag for in fights. He's not saying I'm not a woman. He's not saying that I'm like a failure of a woman or anything like that. He's saying that I am performing all of these elements of fighting that are attributed to masculinity and being a man. And so you take what you're seeing and call it what those markers are. And I thought that was kind of cool because he's basically like using it as shorthand for all of these things that he's seeing about my strength and composure and relentlessness in the fight. Oh, this guy's talking to me a lot. It's hard when people are like way into telling you all kinds of things because you don't want to be rude, but you're totally not listening. The guy in my corner who like isn't coming through the ropes, he was talking to me for like 20 minutes before this fight, and I'm like, yeah. He basically wanted me to, he just said Puchai, the announcer. The corner who was talking to me before the fight basically wanted me to jab and right kick endlessly. Not a bad strategy, but definitely not my fight style. Here I'm trying to work my way in, and my body posture is kind of broken, so that's not the best. If I'd been able to get in and move, it would have been all right as a temporary position. But after this fight, something that I talked to Dieselnoy about is, in Thai they call the, like, what do you call it? The form of Muay Thai, like what a fighter looks like in silhouette, is called roop. And you don't want to break your roop. Like, you want to always look composed and in form and kind of like not hunching, or like when you get turned in the clinch and you're kind of like curled in on yourself. You want to really control those things. And when Dieselnoy stayed at my gym for a month, he was hounding the boys about how they stood and how they breathed between everything. That yank off was amazing. See how we're now away from the ropes and the ref kind of can't break us? That break there was a terrible break because we were off the ropes. And he's kind of turning it into a like, I'm just trying to fix the tape on her glove. It is a slight problem, but like that break against the ropes would have seemed acceptable, but away from the ropes not. That's why Kevin's always yelling at me to drag people off the ropes. In the middle of the ring, look at this, he's not breaking us. She's trying to push her hips in to protect herself and kind of posture up. Again, not breaking root. But she cannot, see how she's bent over here? That's old school Sylvie trying to flip her in the opposite direction. The thing that I'm happy about with this fight is I'm starting to pull away now. I'm not coming after her. I'm basically like, it's up to you to score now because I've totally blown you out. The thing that makes me happy about the movements I'm having in the clinch here, in my path as a fighter, is that the vocabulary that I'm demonstrating and the ease with which I'm demonstrating my ability to flow between those different variations makes me super happy. That really, really shows the hard work I've been putting in my training. I'm kind of getting her to like run away from me here. When you go backwards and you like put it on your opponent that they have to come and get you, using fakes and dodging and blocking is basically your best bet. I'm not like running backwards. I can't like fly backwards when I fight. Here I kind of fucked myself because I decided to charge after her and I wasn't able to get her on the ground. So even though I caught her kick and kind of flurried her because she didn't go down, that was a not great moment for me. And if I just stay here and she keeps coming forward and like henpecking me with these kicks, in certain scenarios, you can actually like work your way into a very different narrative of the fight like that. I am way ahead at this point. Kevin is warning me ahead of time. This is the 4th round that we just finished, and I already like pulled away and started dancing off in the 4th round, which is not the greatest idea because you have to carry the narrative from round 4 to round 5. If I'm already dancing off in round 4, it's very difficult to come forward in round 5 when you've already started pulling away. So you want to like establish that you have the lead. You want to not give away that you have the lead by suddenly coming forward as though you're losing, but you almost can never do wrong by coming forward for the first 30 seconds or a minute and then pulling away again. So it's like, I came after you, you're afraid of me, I can do whatever I want to you, I can rip you in the clinch, and then I pull away again. It's basically like you had a really good joke and you tell it again, but like with a little bit more swagger instead of like, oh my God, I already got to the punchline and now I have to drag this out kind of thing. I totally went into this round not sure of myself of how to carry the narrative that I had created in the fight leading up to this into the 5th round. It took me more than 100 fights to figure out how to fight a 5th round, including like how to even do the pull away. I knew it intellectually. I knew that when you already had a lead, if you keep chasing, you can actually lose and look really desperate. So I didn't want to chase and not catch her. I was very worried about coming forward and not catching her. So I wanted to kind of like stand my ground and block, but that's not what I ended up looking like I was doing. I actually look afraid of her after I've just been killing her for 4 rounds. You might be able to hear Kevin, he's like, no, Sylvie, no. Like, he's totally seeing that the choice that I'm making is not how do you fucking finish this fight. I can't hear him. You're just getting this on the camera, and Kevin's just speaking out loud to himself at this point. This is great. At this point, I can totally dance off, but you don't want to dance off an entire round. It's a lot of time. And in that amount of time, because I can't fight backwards really, the henpecking she can do that she was trying to do at the end of round 4, see how she's kicking me and then taking a few steps back? Oh, she actually changed guard there for a second. She's kicking me and taking a few steps back, trying to get me to chase her. I'm doing my like, nothing you do fucking does anything to me, but she's trying to pull it out. She's trying to do this little like dance off, like, now I've taken the lead and you have to come get me. I'm not chasing her, but literally all I have to do is do the same thing I've been doing for the entire fight, which is go in, grab her, punish her, and then I don't even have to be kneeing her. I can go in and hold her in the clinch, turn her in the clinch, basically show my dominance in the clinch, and not even score. I don't have to score anymore. Now we're getting deep enough into the round that I can dance off, and she's kind of taking it. My corner, you can see him on the left there, he's telling me to stop fighting. I can do that, but I don't look good going backwards. I'm kind of doing a little bit of like faking her out to get her to go backwards so that she looks bad on her own. But when you have so much time to dance off, here we just touch gloves, which is like she's acknowledging that I won already, but she has to keep coming forward and kicking. She has to, like, otherwise she has to like turn around and like walk away, and we have to burn out like 2 minutes of a round. But this kind of thing where she's just stepping in and like henpecking me, if I don't perform right, I'm actually getting scored on over and over and over again. That was a nice teep to the leg on her kick that like broke her posture and kind of spun her around. But I look scared. Like, I do not look like I've won this fight and I'm staying away from you. When she kicks me and I shrug my arms and I'm like, yeah, you didn't get me, or I dodge her a little bit, in those moments I look okay. But in these moments, I don't look good at all. Like, in the moments when I'm actually just standing there trying to burn out the round, which is most of the time that's happening in this last round, I don't look good at all. So, took me over 100 fights to learn how to, that was a really nice throw. That's the like, there's no fucking thing you can do to even get me now. So it took me more than 100 fights to get to the I can even dance off a round. And now I actually have to learn beyond the thing that I've learned to do, because I'm doing it wrong on the other side of it. It's a constant adaptation and a constant evolution, and you just have to like work these things out. Yeah. So this is kind of cool. Part of my life is I get to be this like ringer that nobody knows, that I go into these towns. The size difference is crazy. People are like, this is not the kind of fight that we know how to bet on or what to do or any of these things. And then I can come in and just, Kevin and I call it like, it's like someone pulls a pin and throws a grenade into the ring. Let's see what this does. I like that. It's one of my favorite experiences, but it's been a really long time for me. And I was very, very nervous about this fight. I wasn't really afraid of losing. Like, I wasn't afraid of the fight itself. I was mostly in a state of tension about all of the things surrounding the fight, of not knowing the promoter, not trusting the promoter, not having what he said to me be the case once we get there. And none of those things should actually matter.